Hello! This is another sourdough video, but instead of a loaf, I made bagels. In this video, I show all the ingredients and tools and steps needed to make these, and I also show the results at the end. I think that they turned out pretty good, so without further ado, here are my bagels.
Lady says hi.
Starting with the tools, I used a stand mixer, plastic wrap, silicone spatula, dough whisk, dough scraper, and scale. Then for ingredients, I used my starter, bread flour, honey, water, and salt. To make the dough, I put my mixing bowl on my scale and measured out 300 grams of starter. Again, I use an unfed starter because in my experience, it has worked out the best and I don't have to be super precise with my timing. I just skip one night of feeding and then use it the next day. Then I added 520 grams of warm water, 60 grams of honey, and mix that together off the scale using my dough whisk. Like I said in my previous video, I use a cheap scale that I got from Walmart, so I'm not expecting the scale to be super accurate, so I don't try very hard to be exact with the numbers. I just go with the flow and it has still worked out great for me. After mixing, I then add 1,000 grams of bread flour and 30 grams of salt and get back to mixing with a dough whisk, but not all the way. Once it got to an almost shaggy consistency, I put the mixing bowl into the stand mixer and using the hook attachment mixed the dough for about 5 minutes. Once the dough gets to a not sticky consistency that looks like this, I take it out of the bowl and form it into a tight ball and then put it back into the bowl. Now there are two ways that you can go about this next step, which is making it double in size. You can either cover it and put it in the oven with the oven light on. The oven option is way quicker, at least in my kitchen, and the counter option is slower, so it just depends on how you want to time everything. I started this process in the evening and wanted to sleep in a bit in the morning, so I covered the bowl with plastic wrap and covered it with a towel and left it on the counter overnight. Here is what the dough looks like the next day. It wasn't sticking to the plastic wrap or my hands and just looked really good. I don't know how else to explain it other than it was radiating good vibes. For this next part, you will need a baking sheet, parchment paper, scissors, dough scraper. I end up switching to a metal one later, flour sifter or spoon, and bread flour if your dough or hands are too sticky to shape the dough. I prepped the baking sheet by cutting 2 pieces of parchment paper to fit flat on the bottom of the sheet, and then cut those papers into 6 pieces each for a total of 12 squares, 1 for each bagel. I also chose to use a silicone mat for baking, so I am laying the silicone mat in between the sheet and the papers. Once that's done, I take the dough out of the bowl with the help of my plastic dough scraper. I switch to the metal dough scraper and do my best to split the dough into 12 pieces. First in half, then quarters, then cutting those quarters into 3 pieces. It helped me to roll the quarters into balls and then divide them. To make the bagel shape, I roll the dough into a ball and then split a hole in the middle and let the weight of the dough stretch more to make a bagel shape. I found that the wider I made the bagel, the better it looked after baking. I put each formed bagel on its own parchment paper and then covered them with a towel to rest for 30 minutes. When the 30 minutes are almost up, I get my big pot full of water to boil, preheat my oven to 400 degrees, and put my bagels next to the stove. The water is not supposed to be a huge boil, but still boiling. Once that's ready, I take the bagels and lay them face down with the paper still attached and boil it for 1 minute. Then I take the paper off, flip them, and then boil them for another minute. I decided to make half of these everything bagels, so I took the everything bagel seasoning and sprinkled it on while the dough was still a bit sticky from the water. Once the bagels are done boiling, I put the sheet in and bake them for 30 minutes. And this is how they turned out. Obviously, it's not the perfect bagel shape, but I still think they turned out pretty good. They made the house smell so good and they tasted even better. They were perfect in the middle too, and they just had a really great texture. Anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye!